morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, it's time to have a little bit of a look at a new Rotom card. We're getting a new Rotom. Yay! And this Rotom looks pretty gosh darn good, ladies and gentlemen. Pretty gosh darn good indeed. Now, our translation for this is basically me over on Google Translate, but I will check with both the lovely Joe from Cerebi.net and the lovely David from Rappelman TCG, also Limitless TCG, before I go and put this one up on the old interwebs, just to make sure I've not gone and done a silly. So, Rotom then. It's got 70 HP, which is kind of annoying because you can't use Professor Round's Lecture, and it's low. Seriously, with Professor Round's Lecture, I've said this quite a bit, but it does bear repeating, we're better off with 60 HP. Retreat cost of 1 does mean that Escape Board and U-Turn Board will give you a free retreat, so that's quite nice. And the Weakness of Darkness, it's fine. I mean, the good news is there is an Evil Towel that does 30 damage that you will survive. That's the one from Team Up. The bad news is there's an Evil Towel that does 40 damage if there's a stadium in play. The one that's going to be in Unified Minds, you won't survive that hit. But when you've got 70 HP, weakness shouldn't be your main concern. Resistance to fighting is lovely, because stuff like Boswell's still running around and people are trying to counter Pikachu and Zekrom. But again, you got 70 HP. Resistance shouldn't probably be your primary concern. And it's a Psychic Pokemon. So, if you were doing any damage, you could hit weakness on stuff like Mew Mew. But you're not, so you can't. You can take advantage of Spell Tag though, so when you do go down, you get to drop some damage counters, which is nice. But what does it actually do? Well, what it does, trash a card from your hand, after that, draw 2 cards. Yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory. You discard a card from your hand, you draw 2 cards. This is nice. It's for 1 colourless energy, so you can put it in any deck whatsoever. This can be teched into any deck and you're good to go. And this helps you out in the early game. Just draws you 2 cards. And we've had plenty of cards in the past couple of years that let you draw cards. It's not... what's the best way to say this? It is not necessarily a unique interaction. But it might be one of the better ones we've got. I mean, there's a Porygon 2 that lets you draw 2 cards, but that's a stage 1, so that's not ideal. To be fair, there is a Farfetch'd. And there is a Mimikyu. Farfetch'd and Mimikyu both from Team Up, incidentally, that will let you draw 2 cards. But people have used Virizion to do this, and Virizion to 2-prize GX Pokemon. Drawing 2 cards is kind of cool. But here's the thing. This also makes you discard a card from your hand, and I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, this can actually be good. Like, you can be getting an advantage because you have to discard 2 cards from your hand. Which is kind of cool, right? Because you see, there are plenty of times you want to discard a card. Take the Zoroark from Team Up, which does more damage for each Pokemon you've got in your discard pile, up to a certain amount. Take a Alolan Executor that does more damage for each basic energy, each type of basic energy in your discard pile, up to a certain amount. What you're really doing here is cycling cards, and the attack is literally called Cycle Draw. You are cycling cards. You are getting rid of cards you don't want to draw cards that hopefully later on you do. Now, if you don't want to discard a card from your hand, you're probably better off with something like Mimikyu. Although Verizion's still a GX Pokemon. But the fact of the matter is, this is really good draw in the early game. Okay, it's not quite as good as Lapras GX. But firstly, Lapras GX is rotated, and secondly, that used water energy, and thirdly, it gave up 2 prizes, so no. I think we're pretty good where we are. I quite like this. I mean, certainly in a pre-release, it's going to be wonderful, like really good. But I like it. The second attack, 1 Psychic Energy, so now it's a bit less techable. Attach 2 Basic Energy from your discard pile to your Pokemon on the bench in any way that you like. It does not have to be 2 to the same Pokemon, but if you wish, it can be 2 to the same Pokemon, or it could be 1 to each of 2. Now, the downside here is that you're not actually doing any damage. The upside here is that you're just accelerating energy. Because you see, back in Guardians Rising, we had Rayquaza, a Pokemon that I thought would end up being really good and never ended up being really good. The thing is, it needed double colorless energy. And now you were using one of the 4 double colorless energy in your deck, bearing in mind they weren't the easiest things to find, to accelerate energy. And okay, it did do 30 damage, and doing 30 damage is good, but it's only 30 damage. It's not exactly a huge amount. And that was 2 basic energy to one of your bench Pokemon. It didn't let you split them up. Something like Volcanion saw a huge amount of play back in the day, and for 1 energy it did 20 damage, and attached a fire energy to each of 2 bench Pokemon. But it didn't let you put both of those energy onto the same benched Pokemon. So look, Rotom's not doing any damage, and that's very, very sad. But I still contend the only reason Rayquaza didn't see play was double colorless energy. And Volcanion did see a lot of play. And the fact of the matter is that there are some typings where accelerating energy is just not that easy to do. And for those types, you can use this nicely. Now, the downside is it is psychic energy. It's not colorless energy. So you've got the unit energy, which is psychic, along with metal and lightning. Which is weird because those are the 2 typings where you can use Magnezone to accelerate as much energy as you like. There's kind of a weird little coincidence going on here. And you've got rainbow energy. Or you can just play a bit of psychic energy. And the thing is that psychic decks, there's a strong argument they don't need them, because psychic decks have got Malamar. And Malamar's great. But what's to stop you playing this with Malamar? Because you see, Malamar decks are reliant on Malamar, clues in the name, and Malamar's a stage 1. So the thing is that Malamar, it doesn't do much turn 1. You generally got to wait a turn or 2 for Malamar to really be as good as it should be. So what do you do during that turn or 2? You whack a Rotom in the active and start accelerating energy. Oh, that's kind of cool. And remember, the first attack makes you discard a card from your hand, which could be a basic energy, so that you can attach it next turn. There's nothing to stop you playing a deck with a whole bunch of different basic energy and then using Rotom to apportion it around the field as you like. I don't think either of these attacks are flat out, yeah! But I do think that both of these attacks are super useful. I think the first attack that allowed you to draw 2 cards and discard one that you got to discard first is really useful in a whole bunch of decks, and being colorless energy only helps it. And I do think that this second attack is great for accelerating energy. I'm marking it down a little bit because you can accelerate any energy, but you can only do it when you attach a psychic energy. And that does make me a little bit sad and a little bit apprehensive. But this will probably survive 1 more rotation than Malamar. And even bearing in mind it might not, it still helps out Malamar. I'm going to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, I really like this Pokemon. I'm giving it between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. I do think this is going to find its way into some decks, and I do think that we're going to see some people playing this for the first attack and for the second attack, maybe both in the same deck, maybe one in each of a bunch of different decks. I don't know. But it's a basic Pokemon that can do a bunch of good stuff starting for 1 colorless energy, and whenever I see Pokemon like that, I get rather excited. But I'd like to know if this has gone and got you excited, so please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games don't even have Pokemon in. We're going to start talking about Chrono Clash. It's got Naruto and Godzilla. It's going to be awesome. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves until next time. Did I mention those games don't have Pokemon in? Because they don't. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.